Hi, Misha here, and it's another Gun of the Day episode. Just an informal little series where we do a few minutes on a gun we just feel like talking about, and usually they're guns that have been featured in other videos. So this isn't about in-depth content, just musings and mostly hanging out with you during the lockdown times. And so this afternoon I brought out my Legion USA Russian AKM. And this is about as close as you can come to a Russian AKM in America. Now yes, you can get SGLs, you can get Segas, you can get Vepers. None of those are based on the AKM. They're based on other models. By the time imports began to come in from Russia, the AKM was long out of production. And because of the way the law is written, you can't import guns that have been semi-autoed, because once a machine gun, always a machine gun, so the receiver had to be whacked off. There were some Russian kits with barrels imported, commonly known today as PLO kits, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but then that kind of got kiboshed because in 2005 they passed what we refer to shorthand as the barrel ban. So kits that have come in over the past 10 to 15 years have all had to have their barrels chopped up. So what to do? Well, Legion USA, a company down in Florida, which is actually staffed by, or at the time this was built, was staffed by former employees of Molot and Izhmash, Kalashnikov concern, for some time really specialized in doing some really neat Russian builds. And they did this AKM. Now, it's actually marked Veper, which at first I thought was stupid, but I kind of learned why. Over in Russia, Molot, who markets their semi-autos under the Veper name, did take some ex-military AKMs and convert them to semi-auto for sale on different markets. Well, obviously we cannot import these, and never could, to the USA, but what they could do was bring over the parts kits. So pretty much everything less receiver and barrel can be brought over. So that's kind of what Legion USA ended up doing. They brought over the converted, sorry, I'm trying to get my sling, there we go. They brought over the guns that Molot had converted from full auto AKMs to semi-auto AKMs. And so they kept the Veper name and built them as close to what Molot was doing as possible, including the refinishing. Now, they were using Childers receivers with Russian markings. Pretty neat. Childers at the time was bringing over receiver shells from Poland, made under original conditions. And then they were bringing them over here and finishing them out to be Polish or Russian or what have you. So a Childers receiver was, at the time, about as good as it was getting, and was an imported unit, but it finished out in America. But for the barrel, Legion was using a chrome-lined, but Green Mountain USA made one. And I talked with Alex over there then, and I said, why don't we do a run of these with Polish FB Radom barrels, which were coming in as virgin barrels. He agreed, so I sent him some, and he built some from Ozark Bear Arms, my company. And so this was as close to a real AKM built with as many imported parts as we could, including, most importantly in my mind, the barrel. Chrome-lined, cold hammer forged. Threaded 14mm, standard bayonet lug, standard wood palm swale handguards, late style features otherwise, Bakelite grip. Accepts standard magazines. Some people complain that the finish they used isn't dark enough. I can appreciate that. But refinishing or even just painting over, because the Russian guns were painted, really shouldn't be a problem for any decent gunsmith. Notice it does have the XY stampings on the receiver. No scope rail. It's a standard AKM. Semi-automatic only trigger pack. I picked one that was kind of a later construction because I thought the late features were kind of neat, like the cast gas block. There's the date. All serials, at least all the major serials, matched on these. Trunnion, top cover, bolt carrier. Sometimes smaller parts, like the rear sight, may not. But on later production guns, Russia kind of quit serial numbering the sight and the recoil rod anyway. Has the late style takedown button. Towards the end of AKM production, they were starting to kind of make them look more like an AK-74 because there was an overlap for a few years. So yeah, my Russian AKM, about as good as it can get without going full bore custom, because these are retailing with the bayonet and sling, cleaning kit, one mag, for about $1,400-1,500 back then, which is not cheap, but considering the barrel was a Polish barrel, the receiver was a Polish receiver, blank, the parts were matching Russian, and they were assembled by Russians, you know, pretty good, because you cannot get a true import. Now, the SGL does a fantastic job of being an AK-74M or AK-100 series, and the Mulat Vepr is a semi-automatic, authentic Russian RPK. But for an AKM, this is about as good as it goes. For imports, the SAR-1, I mentioned in that video, the Gun of the Day SAR-1 video, that's about as close as it gets. Another one is the Egyptian Mahdi. So you could always take a Mahdi, I suppose, and remanufacture it to look more Russian. But in my mind, at that point, when you've done so many changes, it's a kit gun either way. But yeah, we've had this in a few videos, and these have not been made. Alex doesn't even work at Legion anymore. So this was a few years back now when we did these, but it was a fun little custom project, and had some real neat guns out of it. So that is my gun of the day for today. If you'd like to know more about the AKM's history, or this build in particular, we've got videos on those in the playlists. And if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.